change.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Gentlemen, let's move on quickly. What does freedom look like for those who have been behind bars? Well, in a sweeping step towards prison reform, the federal government has released over 7,500 inmates across correctional centers nationwide. The initiative aimed at decongesting overcrowded facilities prioritized inmates serving sentences for minor offenses, particularly those unable to pay fines or access legal representation. Authorities say the exercise is part of a broader reform agenda to enhance rehabilitation, promote alternative sentencing, and reduce reoffending. By addressing prison overcrowding, the government signals a shift toward a justice system that is both humane and reformative, one where the punishment fits not just the crime, but the future of the convicts. Sikia, let me start with you.
Yes, I've said it time and time again, there's need for us to be able to decongest our prisons, or what we now call correctional centers. If you go to most of these prisons, you realize that almost close to 60% or even up to 70% of the inmates are awaiting trial. Suspects, because they are suspects, as it were. It's only when you are convicted that you can be called. Yes. So most of them, even for minor offenses. And I gave an example of my time there. Although when I say it now, BK say I'm an ex-convict. But
jailbird.
BK will say I'm an ex-convict.
Jailbird.
But I remember that you know, the stories are always there. When I spent about 10 days in at Ikoyi prison as a journalist, I've told him, except he has gone to prison, he's not well. They say he will never go. And that opened my eyes to the workings within the team. You see some people that have been in the prison for almost 10 years for just petitives, suspicion, for just issues that could have ordinarily been dealt with, and they'll be asked to go. So that number continues to grow. And that is also one of the reasons we'll be having jailbreaks, because when you have so many people in a particular place for a limited area, then there's always the tendency for you to have something. So I commend this effort, and I believe that starting from the state executive, I'm not always very happy when every 1st October or June 12th or whatever anniversary we have, you see the Commissioner of Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice of a state walk into a prison and say they've released 5 people or 4 people. It doesn't make sense. We have to have a holistic breakdown of those in our prisons and the offenses. If there's also offenses, I'll give you also a classical example of some of this. There were some people that have been released on bail. Do you know that some of them cannot afford 10,000 naira for 20 to live? When I left, I make sure that I pay for almost 10 people who had very minor money for them to get out of prison. So those are the issues as it were. Our prison currently is overpopulated. And also look at the judiciary as well, because we'll be talking about what is the place of ADR, what we call alternative dispute resolution on issues. Not every issue that you take to the court. It's not. That's what we've been taught.
So talking about overpopulation, over 80,000, is 7,500 a good number? That
is what I'm saying. It's not. We have to continuously look at it. I know somebody like Governor Solido did something. Immediately he came into office in Anambra State. I saw a number of them were released, but we can still do more. Some of them that have just minor issues can be allowed to go, and that in itself we could. Then these are waiting.
When you say allowed to go, what exactly do you mean? Because I mean, when people commit offenses, why should you allow them go when these kinds of offenses?
It is not every offense. It's not every offense that. That's what I'm saying. It's not every offense that gets jail term, even across the globe. It's not every jail. That's what in the United States and the UK. That's what is called suspended sentence.
Okay.
If you know what I mean, what suspended sentence means is that you committed a crime, and the court look at it as is a minor crime that you can go. What they now tell you is that in the next 1 year, you must not commit any crime of this nature again. Then you'll be asked to go. Some will be asked to do some community service. They'll ask you to sweep, gutter, clean some things and places and the rest of them. But you can't just go, you see some homeless young people under the bridge, you go there, park them, and that's what they do. You go there, they park them, take them before a magistrate court, the man sentenced them, and they just dump them in the prison. What do you expect? So some of these issues should be looked into, and some of these minor offenses should be allowed to just, that in itself is also creating problem for the police, because the police has the prosecution right. Theirs is to pick up any criminal and take them to court. But the judiciary itself, and now we're still talking judiciary again, it is the work of the judiciary for to make sure, because you see some of these minor cases, they continue postponing, adjourning, and some instances you adjourn for over 10 times. The sentence you could have just passed, and the people spend more time in the prison than they would have been sent if they had been sentenced. And that is what has been.
That's correct.
Yes.
All right, BKO. Would you consider this a genuine step toward prison reform?
Well, first and foremost, I think the benefits derivable from this is addressing prison congestion, not totally about reform. You know, reform is a much more broad subject. Everyone knows that our prisons are decrepit in nature. We need modern prisons, first and foremost. And I'm happy that
modern prisons.
Yes, modern prisons, modern correctional centers, since that's what they like to call them now. Some of these prisons are about 100 years already. So these prisons, we look at them, they are very old, very old. The architecture, everything, very old. And there are no good enough beddings in them. I saw a prison, I don't want to mention the place so that they don't go after the people who allow me to come in, where I saw double bunk beds, where the prisoners merely laid cartons, you know, cartons of maybe beer or whatever. They just spread, after splitting them open, they just laid them on it in place of a mattress. So those prisons are in a terrible shape. There's a need to build new prisons. There's a need to relocate a lot of our prisons. A lot of our prisons are located too close to city centers, too close to where the rest of us reside. They are supposed to be located outside our communities. And that's why when there's a jailbreak, within a short time, these people mesh with ordinary people. Yes. You cannot catch them anymore. Because imagine when a prison is located in the heart of town. And that's why,
especially because here in Nigeria, we don't have a comprehensive data.
Exactly.
Yes, once they mesh with the people, it's all over. You know, back then, prisons were located close to palaces of emirs. Back in the day, and it's still the case in many parts of northern Nigeria. You see the emir's palace not far away from prison, because the emir had so much power at that time, you know, can send people to prison, can do whatever he liked. But right now, for us to get the best out of even these inmates, you don't need to locate those correctional centers where they are currently. There's a need to relocate them. Look at Suleja prison the other day, when there was a jailbreak. The people, they quickly mixed with ordinary people, because you located it where, I mean, literally surrounded by people. So that's one, because we talked about reform. But in terms of congestion, one of the reasons we have this congestion is people unable to pay fines. Somebody who has been, even his own people had abandoned him there, how will he pay the fine? So what we had been doing over time was, I mean, is get corporate bodies involved, get NGOs involved in helping people to pay those little fines that have kept them in those correctional centers for too long. I mean, so according to the minister, we have even saved $1 billion from the fact that these guys have helped to get those guys out of the prison walls. because the cost of feeding has now gone down in response to the incremental release of those who ought not to still be in prison. So if you look at it, year on year, we are making progress. To 2022, we got 707 people out of the prison walls. 2023, 4,678. 2024, 1,843. So this policy is working. If people only need to pay small fines, we have to find a way to help them to get out of the system. Awaiting trial inmates, they usually dominate the people who are properly jailed. And that should not be the case. I can tell you when Beko was in Makurdi prison or so, Makurdi, trying to, maybe Katsina prison. So when he was in prison, there were people that they should have taken to court, but because the Black Maria was in a bad state, they couldn't take them to court. It took Beko's efforts for some of those people to be taken to court. And once they took them to court, they were released that day.
Instantly.
Their bails were perfected. Those are not serious offenses like loitering. We still catch people. We still apprehend people for so-called loitering. That can be an offense, especially on environmental sanitation. If you are unlucky, you arrive when the environmental sanitation has started. By the way, Lagos and many other states now, they are coming back, you know. If you are caught, they will take you to Kirikiri for loitering.
So, okay, what should be the alternative to all these non-violent offenses, petty offenses, so to speak?
Yes, you see, unfortunately, the judiciary is overwhelmed. The judiciary is overwhelmed. So there is so little that the judiciary can do in terms of hastening the process. Court processes and all that. There are so many cases that shouldn't even get to court that are getting to court.
That's what I'm saying.
Look at these politicians. In an electoral season, you know how many cases that go to Supreme Court? How many cases will go to the appeal court? So they are overworking our courts by not matters that naturally should not get to the courts. They will take such matters to court. So in my view, we should adopt alternative dispute resolution can save us a lot of time that we waste in courts. It can save the time of the court. So let's pursue that a lot more. It's not every matter that should actually get to the courts. Some of those matters can be decided and everyone will go home happy. It shouldn't be every matter that will take before the courts, and it shouldn't be every matter that should get to the Supreme Court. You know? So, and I also think that just as the ACJA was very revolutionary, we need to come up with more laws that will ensure that cases, the tenure of cases is not unnecessarily long. For example, now, you know, especially electoral matters, you already know when the matter will be decided by Supreme Court. From the first day, you know. So we need to have something like this in respect of criminal cases and others, so that cases can be decided. There are cases, corruption cases that I know, that have been on since like 2007. What is the meaning of that?
2007. That's about 18 years.
And some of them have not even kicked off.
At all.
Because the accused person began by asking for interlocutory injunction. So some of them have not even officially kicked off. We are still at the preliminary stage after all these years. So things need to change. I'm happy that people, NGOs and the rest of them committed 585 million naira to ensure that those little fines here and there are paid, and so that these people can secure their freedom to go and sin no more. And
that's commendable. But quickly before we go on break, let me come to CKN. Are you bothered about public safety or reoffending? Because what I know from this report is that this initiative is aimed, is geared toward ensuring that there are no second offenders. Are you also bothered about rehabilitation of some of this released prisoners?
Yes. We have to have some level of attitudinal change. Because most often than not, the way we treat prisoners in this country makes it difficult for some of the ex-convicts to be rehabilitated and reabsorbed into the society, starting from their families.
Okay.
Some people get released and they don't ever go back to their family because within their family circle they will not be accepted.
All right.
Then others, just a final one. Even some of them cannot even get a job for the rest of their life. That is what is done. That is not the way in this state. Yes. So we have to. That attitude has to change. We have to know that these are people that everybody, every human being is prone to mistakes.
Ostracize them.
Yes, they ostracize them. Everybody is prone to mistakes. There are some that are not genuine cases of crime, but circumstances. That's why in law there's a distinction between murder and manslaughter. Most often they are not. Murder is what you intentionally did, what you did intentionally. That's what we call the mantra in law. Okay, the mantra means what was behind your mind when you are doing something. Were you out to kill? Were you out to hurt? That's intent. It seems to have joined us. So the intent matters, and that is what most often than not judges look at. So it's very, very key. But the issue of reabsorbing them into the society is what we need to work on. Not that everybody, once they come out of prison, you just think, oh, you don't need to. So those are the items. Once we're able to, they can also be. Then they themselves also should also look at that. They've been given a second chance in life. Because it's not everybody that has that opportunity. If you go into other parts of the world, some of them became good musicians. Look at R. Kelly. R. Kelly is in prison. That is, he's singing. PD, I don't know whether they finish his case and the rest of them. By the time he comes out, there are some that are basketballers, there's the rest of them. They also get reabsorbed into the society. Some are footballers. Look at Pogba. Pogba. Despite all the crime, although he didn't go to prison, today he has been cyborg in Monaco. So those are the kind of attitude we should be looking at instead of looking at them that people that
Gentlemen, let's go on a break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Journalist Hangout on Sunday, and I've been hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Chris Kende Uwandu. Bikio, let's round off this conversation with your perspective on the importance of building modern prisons and what they should look like. Yes,
as far as I'm concerned, we need new prisons, new correctional centers. I hope I'll get used to calling it correctional centers.
Same with me.
Yes. We need new ones located in the right places and fitted with all of the gadgets that they need to have. They should be real correctional centers, because even schools, they can build small schools inside so that those in prison can actually get some education. And then one big problem we have is that even when people are sentenced to death, there are very few correctional centers in Nigeria with the facility to hang a convict. So when we build new and modern prisons, they should make sure that that facility is there, so that they don't need to transfer people to somewhere else to take their lives, only for governors of that state where the convict's life is going to be taken to refuse to sign. And if our capacity now is 50,000, you know, our prison, our correctional facility, the capacity is 3,000, but I mean 50,000, but we have 81,746 in our prisons, and out of this 81,746, 54,013 are waiting trial. So a number of people,
almost 70%.
Yes, they are an overwhelming majority are not convicts, and a lot of them could still walk away free.
Yeah,
because who knows? When you put somebody on trial, maybe you don't even have evidence against him, but he could stay there for more than 20 years.
Yes.
Without actually committing that offense.
Beyond the time that if he has been convicted.
Yes. So in such a case, their lives are ruined. When they come out of prison, having been set free, there's no way they can recover. you've kept them in prison. I saw the case of a man that a woman accused of rape. And that same woman later confessed that, oh, I lied against him.
Can you imagine?
And he had spent more than 15 years in jail already.
That's it.
So, such things, that's why when they say, oh, this person, bring your evidence. If you don't bring your evidence, we will never agree that the man did it. We are not going to say, for example, that, oh, because this guy is known to be a flex, therefore, anybody who accuses him must have said the truth. No, bring your evidence. Stop wasting our time. It's your evidence that we are waiting for.
All right, gentlemen, perhaps we need to move on to our next